Panthers fans, what is going on? Welcome back to yet another episode of the Robstar Report. Appreciate everybody coming in. Again, as always, make sure you come in, pound that like button, hit that subscribe button, and make sure you click that post notifications bell so you don't miss out on any new content. All right. Shout out to everybody who comes in the chat. I appreciate everyone joining the live stream. Listen, man, the NFL draft is getting closer. Free agency is getting closer. The combine is basically here. Looking forward to watching that, of course. As we get into tonight's show, we're going to be talking about, what the NFL combine could tell us about the Panthers' real plan, in my opinion, and where I think their attentions will be really at the NFL combine. I truly believe that we'll get a little bit of a sneak peek. I think the combine is going to be more of a sneak peek of where we could be going in this year's draft. Then of course, the free agency will help that. I think what we'll see at the combine will be a sneak peek, and I think what will be finalized, I feel like I'll see a finalized product of where they're going to go once the free agency is going over. Once the free agency is over with, like I said, and then we will dive more. I mean, this show will be fulfilled of a lot of draft prospects, going over them. We'll be going over, again, of course, a lot more. It'll be a lot more draft content once the free agency and the combine's over with. So there's plenty more to come, obviously, but again, I'm holding off to really doing more of my draft content once we truly get into, of course, once the combine's over with and once the free agency. So we'll be diving more into that. But today we're really going to talk about what I can see their real plan. I think we're going to see a lot of that. There's a lot of questions going into the combine. We'll dive into that. What's up, Clay? Thinking we lose in Mays to free agency. They might. It sounds like Joe Person has a little bit of an inside source that Cade Mays could taste the free agency market, which I would not be surprised by that. Because, again, we're looking at a guy who could get paid up to close to $20+ million. $20+ million. His market value is around, I think, if I'm not mistaken, at 20. I mean, that's what these offensive linemen are going for, man. I'm not surprised. What's good, Earl? What's good, SC Panthers boy? Shout out to y'all in the chat already. Again, as you guys coming in, make sure you pound that like button, hit that subscribe button, and make sure you click that post notifications bell. All right. So, what the combine will tell us about the Panthers' real plan? Like, again, the offseason isn't just another checkpoint for this organization. It's a pressure test, man. We're going to be pressure tested a whole lot right now. All right. Because the NFL combine gets underway in Indianapolis this week, starting on I think right now we start on the. Good Lord. Let me pull up the schedule real quick. I'm going to pull up the NFL Combine schedule. I just had it up. I was looking at it, here it is. I'll pull up the NFL Combine schedule right now. Boom. Oh, you dirty dog. There we go. All right, so we're gonna here's the combine schedule. Hopefully you guys can see that. That's what we're looking at right now. Let me see if I can zoom in, or maybe if I make this bigger. I don't know. That made it a little bit smaller. Let me see if I zoom in, if that makes it any better. No, not really. Okay, what if I go smaller here? Does that make it any better for you guys? Not really. No, not really. Okay. Well, this is the schedule, obviously. So a lot of people already arrived. Today is just going to be, we're not going to be seeing any workouts until the workouts don't start until Thursday. It looks like. Yep. So the on-field workouts you'll see on Thursday, obviously, as you can see, linebackers, defensive linemen, a lot of defense. And then, of course, basically all defense on Thursday. And then on Friday, you'll see defensive backs, tight ends. Saturday, you'll see running backs, quarterbacks, wide receivers. And then, of course, offensive linemen will finish it out on Sunday. All right, so that's what we're looking at the combine. But I think, if I'm not mistaken, Dan Morgan and Dave Canales will both be at the podiums. I think a certain time frame. I would have to look that up. But again, as the 2026 NFL Combine gets underway in Indianapolis, our decision makers, as in Dan Morgan, Dave Canales, Brant Tillis, will be for mainly Dan Morgan and Dave Canales. I'm not sure if Brant Tillis will be there, but just as much as how Brant Tillis we've seen in the video, the YouTube videos that they put out for the draft, the Process Blue, whatever it's called. I wonder if Brant Tillis will be there because he is pretty involved in the draft and free agency, obviously. But Dan Morgan, Dave Canales, again, will be in attendance. They're going to be evaluating a sizable portion of these 319 prospects invited to the combine. Obviously, we won't get to see the full picture yet. This week usually provides the first real clues about how a team plans to attack the free agency and the draft and the roster construction. And I think for our team, we're still figuring out exactly what it is, what it isn't, and those clues matter. This week is about direction, though, in my opinion, not just prospect. The combine isn't just about workouts, man. It's about having these conversations, the medical checks, the tone setting, right? Now, I just looked it up. Morgan is scheduled to speak with the media tomorrow at 1 p.m. and then followed by Dave Canales at 2 p.m. So we'll rewatch that if you guys want to. We'll rewatch that and break that down tomorrow. What's up, Shane? What's up, Trizzy? Appreciate you. Appreciate you. Haven't missed anything yet. So again, Dan Morgan speaks to the media tomorrow at 1 p.m., followed by Dave Canales at 2 p.m. Both have built reputations for being relatively direct and realistic when discussing about how this team is going to be built, even if they stop short of the revealing specifics. But that alone makes this week obviously valuable to us. And I think from a fan standpoint, we should all walk away with a better understanding of where the franchise believes its biggest problems still are and how aggressive it plans to fix them. My number one question, though, Chad, is how the Panthers prioritize positions this spring, right? Because, again, we've talked about it on the show. Free agency is right around the corner. So this is the time of the year when teams, quietly decide where they'll spend, where they'll cut, where they'll wait for the draft. And over the next couple of weeks, we'll be dealing with potential re-signings. We'll be dealing with contract restructures, veteran cuts, the open market free agents. So the combine often gives an early hint at which positions are being targeted internally. So my question is Dan Morgan and Dave Canales, tip their hand on how they view the tight end market, right? Are they actively searching for a true rangy safety? Will the linebacker spot be a spot for new starters or internal competition, right? How concerned are they about offensive line depth, right? Obviously, they won't answer those questions directly, but the pieces of those answers I think usually surface in how they talk and how they spend their time evaluating, right? So another thing is, I think my next question would be to them if I was there, is what's the real outlook for Ike Ekwonu? Like what one of the biggest unknowns hovering the Panthers offseason is Ike Ekwonu's health. Ekwonu suffered a torn patellar tendon during Carolina's wildcard playoff loss, right? So the injury is serious, and the Panthers have yet, or this organization has yet to offer a clear timeline of his return. And that's understandable, right? Early on, there simply wasn't enough information to project anything, right? Now, nearly 2 months removed from the injury, Morgan and Canales should have more realistic sense of where things stand, right? You know, if Icky is somehow availability for week 1 is in serious doubt, which currently seems likely, right? If that's the case, that should reshape the entire approach of the offensive tackle this offseason, right? Cade Mays doesn't get re-signed, right? Or they don't bring him back. Taylor Moton isn't getting younger, right? The Panthers will eventually need long-term answers at tackle, whether the solution comes through free agency, the draft, or both depend on heavily on how Ike Ekwonu's rehab progress goes. That is something that we have to think about in our mind, right? That's what we have to think about in our mind, because we don't know if we're going to re-sign Cade Mays. Who knows if they let him test the market? You don't know the progress of Ike Ekwonu's injury, so you don't know what that's going to look like, right? Because you haven't been, again, it's just like I said, Taylor Moton isn't getting any younger. So again, there's a lot of question marks, especially on this offensive line. And obviously the biggest key, if you want to continue to develop Bryce Young, you got to give him the protection. So whether you like him or not, that is just the fact of the matter. Whether you like Bryce Young, you believe in him, all that does not matter in this case. You need to make sure you can keep intact that offensive line enough to give him time to throw and make plays, and, of course, keep him upright. You want to continue that. Trizzy says, what do you think they will use the franchise? Who do I think they will use the franchise tag? That's a good question. Who? Well, I think that they probably will. They probably will franchise tag what, Bryce? Because isn't he? No, they won't franchise. They don't need to franchise tag Bryce right now. Or do they need a franchise tag Bryce? I can't remember. Shit. I think they do need a franchise tag Bryce. No? Oh, I think they'll pick up his 5th-year option. Sorry. Pick up his 5th-year option. I don't know why I thought it was franchise tag. 5th-year option. Franchise tag. I don't know. I think what we will break down once again tomorrow night is I will talk about how we can create some spending power, because there's a few things that we can do to really, really save a lot of money. And I'll just say there's 2 guys that we can restructure. There's 2 cuts in my mind that we could cut. And you could save up close to $50+ million. And if you want to make more room, you can extend 2 players, trade 1, and release 1. So there's going to be a lot of moves that we're going to talk about tomorrow night that could save us close to over $50+ million. All right. So we'll talk about that. But guys getting franchise tag, I'm not sure. I'm not sure who will get franchise tagged. Which Now, another question I would ask Dave Canales and Dan Morgan, which prospects are clearly on Carolina's radar? Now, obviously, they probably wouldn't tell us that out loud, but with them being busy in Indianapolis and conducting interviews and medical evaluations while narrowing down those draft boards, while every team keeps things quiet, there are a few names worth watching. One of the most intriguing to me is Akeem Messidor. He is an older prospect, but he is and he has some injury history, but he is considered one of the most pro-ready edge rushers in this class, possibly second only to his teammate Ruben Bain and maybe David Bailey. If Messidor medical evaluations come back clean, he could very well be our pick at number 19 overall. Another Miami defender, I think a lot of people that's drawing a lot of interest right now is Keontae Scott, who's a standout nickel defender, who profiles as a strong day two target. There are also several mid-round prospects I'm interested in who could rise with a strong combine showing. I think Antonio Williams, wide receiver at Clemson, Matthew Hibner, tight end out of SMU, of course, Caleb Banks out of Florida, Logan Jones out of Iowa, center. Zaki Wheatley is another guy I've been thinking about, safety out of Penn State. But based off of that, some of those guys I named, Caleb Banks is one that's in particular that kind of sticks out to me because he's more of a medical watch because, again, everybody keep your eyes on Caleb Banks, all right? Because if he clears evaluation, the massive interior defensive lineman could firmly be in first-round conversations for us at number 19. I would not be surprised by that. Would not be surprised by that. Keontae Scott is a dog. Hope we find a way to get him. Yeah, Keontae Scott, man, I'm a huge fan. I'm a huge fan of Keontae Scott, especially, from a draft standpoint, because especially from a nickel standpoint as well. Miami's got some dogs, man. Very versatile nickel defender. He's more of a day. I've seen him been more of like a day 2, day 3 project, right? He is also, if people don't, I don't know how close you follow college football as much as I do, but the guy transferred from Auburn to Miami in his final season and was one of the standout defensive weapons there and excelled as a slot corner, box safety, blitz specialist. He kind of could do it all. I think his primary position's nickelback, slot corner mainly, but just great versatility. For a nickel corner, he's got great blitzing paralysis. 5 sacks last year or this past year. Very aggressive downhill, great speed, runs a sub like 4.4. The only problem I would have to say with Keontae Scott is that he's just an inconsistent tackler. He needs to get better at that. In man coverage against larger receivers, he kind of gets he's very limited in that aspect. He's also an older prospect. He's 24 years old coming in as a rookie. I've seen some comparisons, though, to him as Tyrann Mathieu for the versatility, but for a slot disruptor, I've seen him even get comped as an Alontae Taylor. So I would say he's more like a high-end second round, or high second round, or to late third round. That's just me. But I think a lot of people view him as a day one nickel, like Daniel Jeremiah views him as a day one nickel. So I like it. So let's get into some where the attention may lie at this NFL Combine. I wonder if I can pull up the NFL Combine list of players. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, I can pull it up. They got so many players. We'll use PFF, though. Because we're going to go – because I really want to talk about where I think Carolina can – we've talked about it on here multiple times where, where could Carolina kind of be eyeing, right? Where are their eyes going to be at the combine, right? And their eyes are going to be all over the place. They got 319 prospects to look at, right? So first things first, I think the position group that they're going to be looking at, the first one that just pops in my mind is edge defenders. I think that they're going to be looking at all of these guys, okay? But I think there's 3 position groups where we're almost guaranteed that they're going to prioritize this week. Edge rusher will be non-negotiable. They're going to be looking at all of these guys: Ruben Bain, David Bailey, Cassius Howe, all of them. Because if there is one position group that we cannot afford to ignore, once again, is the edge rusher. We need someone. We need a closer, man. We need someone who can seal the deal consistently, not just get pressure at the quarterback, but also can seal the deal and get the sack and finish the play. We need a true playmaker in that aspect. Then we need someone that can line up across from Nick Scorton. Right now, the complementary presence simply does not exist here right now. And the pass rush suffered badly because of it. So the good news is that this year's class is loaded with edge talent. The bad news is some of those names won't be available when Carolina picks at number 19, if that's the case, unless somebody falls and we need to trade up. But, I think prospects like, he's more of a linebacker. I know that. Like Averill Reese, Ruben Bain are expected to come off the board well before the Panthers on the clock, right? I expect now the guys who I think Carolina really is going to spend some serious time evaluating. I think guys like Cassius Howe. I think guys like TJ Parker. I think guys like Akeem Messidor, R. Mason Thomas, Keldrick Folk, right? These are the players. These players aren't identical. They're all different in their own way. Some of them are more refined than others. Some are older. Some win with speed. Some win with more power, right? But they all bring one thing that we just need: the ability to disrupt plays before they develop. Again, we know how bad our pass rush was last season. It was bad enough that adding any of these players would be a meaningful upgrade. This isn't about finding perfection. It's about finding the guy who's going to give us that production. Mock draft today? Maybe, Rolly. And is it going to be my 1.0? I can do one for fun, but it's not going to be my 1.0, my true 1.0. Facts, we need a 10 sack threat. Absolutely. David Bailey is my dream pick, but he won't be there. Yeah, unfortunately, he won't. I have strong feeling that we're going best player available on that defensive side of the ball, depending on what happens in free agency. Yep. I don't want Hakeem. Preference, my friend. Preference. I understand, Papa. I understand. If defense, if 19, I'm leaning towards Messidor Howe. I hate the Keldrick Folk pick. I'm leaning more towards Cassius Howe myself. I think if Sonny Styles somehow falls in the top 12, 13 range, top 12, 13 range, I would not be surprised if Dan Morgan jumps up. I'm just saying, I would not be surprised if Sony Styles somehow falls to that 12, 13, 14 range somehow. I would not be surprised if Dan Morgan tries to jump for it. I'm just saying. Respectfully, I'm not respectfully, you're not saying you're wrong, but I 100% believe that the pass rush issues is the scheme. Hatred, it is what it is, man. I think the scheme is an issue too, but the talent is also just as bad, man. Talent is also just as bad. Regardless who gets put out there, the same amount of sacks each 3 years, basically. Hatred, I don't disagree with you, but you got to put the talent that fits the scheme, and you got to get the talent that is going to boost that scheme as well. Who's going to be effective in that scheme? Who's going to be set up for success in that scheme? You got to get the right guys. That's also another thing. We've got to put that in perspective as well. But I definitely hear you. Vietnam says, isn't 6'2", 248 too small to hold up versus the run? I mean, that's just how, if you're looking at him, run defensive grade ain't bad. Run stopping grade is a little bit low. Pass rush runway is great. I could care less about the run stop. I think that we've done well enough to stop the run between what we got between the lines, the front guys with Derek Brown back, Bobby Brown III, whether Ashawn Robinson's here or not. I think that, I don't know if he's a potential cut, if he's going to be actually cut. Cassius Howe will hold up just fine. But I wouldn't mind putting a nice little family reunion between Cassius Howe and Nick Scorton. Just saying. So, Fade, I'm open to CJ Allen, Sony Styles as well. Listen, I like them as well. I'm just saying, I think they're going to be locked in really on the edge defenders for that first round. I think the edge defender is going to be first round pick. I think, if we're going to be honest, though, I think the next thing is a linebacker because, again, we know the coverage problem needs fixing. Now, again, I think you can make the case that they're going to be paying attention to linebacker as well in the first round. That's fine, too. Because of Sony Styles, again, if he falls, I would not be surprised if they trade up. I like CJ Allen as well. I like Jake Golday. I also am a big Kyle Lewis and Jacob Rodriguez fan as well. Anthony Hill Jr. is also I'm a big fan of. But if Sony Styles is there around that 12 to 13 range, I would not be surprised if Dan Morgan tries to trade up. Because we know that a linebacker is another problem. That has become a major issue, especially when defending the pass. Carolina struggled in coverage at the second level. Opposing offenses knew exactly what we were doing and how to exploit it. Tight ends, running backs, crossing routes. It was just way too easy for them. I think this draft class gives us so many options without forcing our hand to reach in the first round, though, for a linebacker. If Carolina, if Dan Morgan wants to consider a first-round talent, I think, again, Sony Styles fits, CJ Allen fits that profile. You're getting an athletic discipline, would slide cleanly into what we're doing defensively. Both of these guys would. So the position also offers late value in the draft. Like, again, I think Jacob Rodriguez, who could end up being one of the biggest steals of this class, he was arguably the best linebacker in college football last season and earning Heisman Trophy votes. Yet he isn't being universally labeled as a first-round pick. That's the kind of player Carolina should be. I think Dan Morgan and Carolina should be targeting because we don't just need tackles. We need a linebacker who can create turnovers, stay on the field in passing situations, and hold up against the run, finding that player that suddenly, the defense looks a lot more competent and a lot closer to being a lead again. Again, my last, I would say the next position for me, again, would be anywhere on the offensive line. So whether it's a center, guard, or tackle, I would not be surprised if Carolina is looking at any of these guys, even in the first round, because you don't know what's going to happen with K-Base. Of course, we will find out once free agency is done and over with. If they're going to let him test the market, or if they come in with a deal that they can all agree on. Okay, great. You got the center position taken care of. Right tackle, again, Taylor Moton isn't getting any younger. I also think that they're going to try to restructure his deal this offseason to save some cap space, but you need a predecessor there. Also, again, the biggest issue, though, of them all is your blind side in left tackle, Ike Ekwonu, like we alluded earlier. The unknown of his progress, the unknown of his timeline of return. So you got to take a look at bringing someone else in here. And whether, you get someone for the long term and you move Icky somewhere else on the offensive line, and you slide him into left guard on the inside, I don't know. But you cannot let that type of position just to be left alone or ignored. All right? Yes, we also need free safety bad. I would not be opposed to that. I would not, again, no, I'm not saying in the first round T. Thompson, but there's definitely some guys. There's plenty of free safeties that I think you could get out there. Even if you get them in the late rounds. Like, for example, who I'm a big fan of, Zaquie Wheatley, later round. Bud Clark's also on. Michael Taffer, another. Those are my guys I'm looking at in the later rounds. Maybe you're able to get a Kamari Ramsey. But yes, we need a free safety bat. Yes, he is, Trizzy. Yes, he is. I'm a big Bud Clark fan as well. Yeah, I like Bud Clark. J-Rod has first-round production, but third-round size, so he should be drafted in the second round. Yep. Yep, Emmanuel McNeil Warren is a good one as well, D-Cash. I'm a huge fan of that. AJ Halsey, yep. Strong safety, absolutely. I like him as well. What about Jake Curhan, who came in? Yeah, I mean, what Poppin said, I could see them bringing him back. I think he had a strong showing. I think he had great production. I think he had great chemistry on the offensive line. Then really, I think he only allowed like one pressure for how many snaps he did play. I think it was only like one or two pressures. It was not a lot. So the production is definitely there. That could be a person that we re-sign. I wouldn't be surprised by that. I would not be surprised by that either. Poppin says we got to get Rodriguez on this team somehow. We'll see. Again, we also need it. Again, we're basing off the draft. Here's the thing. This is why we're talking about this tonight. We're going to get basically what I want you guys to pay attention to. That's why I'm preaching this tonight. And that's why you see the real plan revealed. You're going to see a sneak peek of exactly where this team's going to be looking at in the draft after the combine is over with all the meetings, right? That they're going to be meeting with these players, with the interviews, with the press conferences. You're really going to see that. But I don't think that we're really going to see the full plan until after free agency. But this gives us a real sneak peek of the plan that I think we're going to see them what they plan on doing going into the draft. But we won't see the full set of plans until after we see the free agency. You talking about Romello height? I'm assuming Carolina Real, what's good? Papa says, do you like Romello? Romello, I'm assuming you're saying Romello height, right? My boy, the guy, edge defender out of Texas Tech, correct? That's who you're talking about, right? Pretty sure. Yeah. Okay. Romello height. Yeah. I definitely love him. Listen, man. I'm a big fan of Romello height. Very underrated. What I love from him the most, I'll say this. The one thing I love from him the most is he had a strong showing at the Senior Bowl. First team All Big 12 honors, 10.5 tackles for loss, 10 sacks. That's not correct by PFF, by the way. It's not 9 sacks. He had 10 sacks on the season. I mean, look at those numbers. Pass rush run rate at a 21.8%, and he's projected a second-round pick. Make that make sense. I'm just saying. One thing that Romello height does have that people don't realize, dude's got one of the fastest get-offs I've ever seen in this class. He has to have the fastest get-off. That's why he's able to win around the edge so early. Very versatile, rare coverage ability for an edge rusher, I think, as well. He's very comfortable dropping into zones, carrying tight ends vertically. So that's one thing I do like about him as well. Got a great toolbox. When you hear me talk about toolbox, guy's got moves. He's got a nice ghost rush, a very effective spin move, very active with his hands. Now, the only thing, I think the reason why Romello height is so low for PFF is because his frame. Because look, his frame's not big. He's 6'3", 240. So he lacks the mass and lower body strength to consistently set the edge that really NFL scouts like. Okay. But he did well enough to do that at Texas Tech, but that's what a lot of people are reporting that's why he's kind of in that second round level. But again, I like him. I think here's the thing. I feel like Romello height, if we're all being honest here, I think he's more of a specialty 3-4 outside linebacker or a situational pass rush. That's the way I look at him. If I had to give him a comp, though, and that's what I was thinking about right now when I paused there for a second. Like, if I had to give him a comp, I'm thinking. If I had to give Romello height a comp, I would compare him to, like, I would say like a Will McDonald or maybe like a Nick Herbig. That's what I would compare him to. That's what I would compare him to. Yeah, I would say Herbig or like a Will McDonald is what I would see Romello Hyatt as. SC Panthers boy, what do you think about the defensive lineman from Clemson? Are you talking about Peter Woods, SC Panthers boy? Don't forget about Derek Moore, man. I think Derek Moore, Joshua Joseph, those are guys that are being slept on as well. Like Romello Hyatt, Derek Moore, and Joshua Joseph, all those guys are getting slept on, man. That's how deep this class is, man. Peter Woods, let me go find him real quick for you. Now, Peter Woods, to me, I'm a big Peter Woods fan. I've been on this show. We've been on this show, talked about multiple times. Him and TJ Parker, I'm also big fans of. I know the production dipped, but I think that we're looking at too much of the production, and then and not looking at the coaching as much as we should. That's just me, in my opinion. I think, again, for a guy who is 6'3", 310 pounds, if you watch the tape, man, this guy gets off the line one of the quickest defensive tackles in this, if not the quickest. He routinely, if you watch his tape, he routinely beats guards off the snap. Great hip flexibility. He's very well balanced for a 310-pound player. He can bend that arc like an edge rusher. That's why you saw Clemson put him on the outside at time. He can play inside. He can play outside. He can play from the 2-point. He can play a 3-point stance. You know, he can align anywhere from nose to 5 tech. I'm a big Peter Woods fan, man. I've said it before. I think Peter Woods is like a Jeffrey Simons, or with how his raw power and disruption. But I think he could also be like a Javon Hargrave, where his explosiveness for an interior pass rusher. So I like him like that. That's the way I look at Peter. Good question, though. Oh yeah, I haven't watched his tape yet. I've got so much, like, guys, look how much tape I've got to go through, man. Still, I'm gonna show y'all my little stash of. Let me see if I can get it pulled up. I'm gonna show y'all my little stash of NFL tape. Let me see if I can find it. It's in here somewhere. Share with me. Maybe it's in here. Oh, yeah, here it is. See, look. Look, I got all this tape. I got Massador, for example. I need to just open this. But cornerbacks, defensive linemen, linebackers, quarterbacks, tight ends. I got them all, man. So I got a lot of tape to go through still. So yeah. Big Peter Woods fan too. Lee Hunter. Tape is ridiculous. Yep. what do you think about Antonio Williams? Antonio Williams is a good one. That's a good question. I think Antonio Williams can be one of those guys that we could probably. I mean, again, I think wide receiver again is another one that we're going to be looking at too. I would not be surprised if they try to complete that wide receiver room. I'm not going to sit there and say that our wide receiver room is complete. But I do think that we will get some look at some guys. Like, again, do I think that the Panthers will draft a wide receiver in the first or for the third time? No, I don't think we'll see that. That doesn't mean that I'm sitting here saying that, right? But I think the wide receiver pool, if we're looking at the round 3 range, like Omar Cooper. Now, again, I don't know if Omar Cooper will fall to the third. He might get boosted up, but Jeremy Bernard or Elijah Surratt is some guys. Zachariah Branch is also another one. Skylar Bell is another one I kind of like too. Like for Branch, you're going to get top end speed, forces defense to respect that deep threat from out of him. I think for a guy like Bernard, excels at the contested catches, can line up in multiple spots. I think a guy like Cooper, though, I am intrigued by him because he's just a physically tough, fearless over the middle, dangerous after the contact, strong tackle breaking ability as well. So again, those are some guys I'd like. But Antonio Williams out of Clemson, he's kind of been the same thing for me as a later guy. I think he could do himself a lot of good with this combine. Where is he at? Where do they got him predicted right now? So they basically got him a third round, fourth round pick. I think one thing that people for Antonio Williams that don't realize is that he can manipulate leverage very well. Tempo, he's got great tempo to create throwing windows to that short to intermediate. Very versatile weapon with great experience. He can return punts. He gets some rushing carries as well. Got a high football IQ as well. The only problem with him is I think his size limitation. So the lack of length with him, the play strength limits his catch radius and effectiveness as a run blocker. 90% of his college routes came in the slot, though, leading most scouts to probably view him more as a role-specific prospect. But I could see him being like a Christian Kirk or a Tyler Lockett, right? Just because of how his route tree is, how reliable his hands is, his special teams value. If he can have a hell of a combine, SC Panthers boy, he could be a day 2 selection or an early third round. So it'll be interesting to see where he's at. That's kind of where these scouts see Antonio Williams as well. But any of these guys, think about it this way: gives Dave Canales another tool to work with and force defensive coordinators to prepare for more than just one or two receiving options, right? So yeah, but that's what, again, I think what we just need to be focused on here is that we need to get people in positions that can be immediate contributors, right, in April, right? So when that draft comes around, right, continue moving the right. This draft doesn't need to be flashy. We just need to be really smart with what we do. And again, like I said, I think that we will get a sneak preview of what direction they're going through this combine, but I don't think we'll see the full picture until after free agency, right? Be interested to see what Dan Morgan and Dave Canales say at the podium this week and see what they have to offer. Some real clues maybe about how we plan to really approach this draft. But again, the combine will do more about talking than just these press conferences, okay? We just got to stay disciplined as an organization, prioritize defense early, I think, resist forcing offensive skill picks. I think this draft could quietly reshape the roster in a meaningful way. And that's what I'm looking forward to the most. All right. There's a big picture here because, again, like I said, this combine is just not going to provide the final answers. It will narrow down the possibilities, right? But I'm interested to see what position we view as urgent, how cautious they're going to be with Ike Ekwano's recovery, because these are questions that need to be answered, and what prospects I think are more than just casual interest. So, again, we're still a team that's building its identity, right? And the combine isn't just about scouting. It's about strategizing, right? And that's what I'm looking for. I'm interested to see what they're strategizing, what they're putting together. Okay. So how about Jalen Kilgore draft note? Jalen Kilgore is on my watch list. Don't you worry there, Rock Jones. Just because I talk about these Clemson players, it doesn't mean that there isn't some Gamecocks out there I haven't taken notice. All right. So lay off, man. Lay off. All right, chat. While I'm out of here, I'm about to get some more content out to you. Got some NFL news to break down. We're going to talk about that through some shorts. We're talking about Kyle Pitts, franchise tag coming up as well, and some more Carolina Panthers news, breaking down all that through some shorts. So make sure you tune into those tonight. I'll have them posted up tonight. So again, appreciate everyone joining the live stream tonight. Shout out to everybody in the chat. Do me a favor, hit that thumbs up button. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Make sure you click that post notifications bell so you don't miss any new content. Other than that, guys, I will see you tomorrow. And as always, y'all know what to do. I'm out of here. Keep pounding. Peace.